Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation. I am Subhalakshmi Rao from Ambika Prasad Research Foundation, India, and today we are going to talk about sampling design. To carry out a good research, there are several steps like formulating a problem or selecting a problem. Then, after selection of problem, we are doing literature survey on the problem. Then we are designing a research and then we are collecting the data, and after collection of data we analyzing it and we come to a conclusion. So sampling design is one of the step of the research, and it comes under research design. So here we will mainly discuss about how we can design um, a population or a sample from where we will collect the data and why it is actually required. So those are the things that will be discussed here. So first of all, census and sample survey. So what is the difference between taking a small sample of the population and studying it, and why not we are studying the whole population? So here census survey is done mainly when we require the data in a systematic manner and all the data are required compulsory. In that case only we will do census, and common does the census every 10 years because it is impossible to do every year the census of people of such a whole big population of India. So as we cannot do the research on whole population on or on a very large scale, because we do not have the source of money or time or energy. So we are taking a small sample of the whole population, and those represent the population of either particular area or um, of particular people or a group. We are taking the small sample and analyzing the data, collecting the data from there and coming to the conclusion, and that conclusion or the result that we got will be applicable for the whole population. So this is the basic about census and sample survey. Next is uh, implications of a sample design. So uh, sample design is actually a planning where we are getting a sample from a given population, and there are some techniques that we involve here in selection of the sample, and mainly those are focused on getting easy sample, or like for example we have to do a study of a particular area where we have to know how many diabetic persons are there. So what is the diabetes influence in that particular area? So we will do what? We will collect blood samples from all the people of that area, or we will take a small sample, means we will take blood from uh, some adults of that area, and then we'll come to a conclusion that yes, this area is more influenced with diabetes or not. So in that case we have to take all the people's blood to analyze it. So we have to design the experiment that way. Next is the case of dengue fever. If we take an area where there are people mainly suffering from dengue, uh, we know about that, but we don't know how many are suffering. So for getting the data that yes, this area is heavily um, affected with dengue, we can take a small sample that is from some people and do the test, and we will say that yes, this area is affected. But if you have to get the data about how many people are suffering, what is the population percentage, those are suffering from dengue, then in that case we have to take the blood sample from all the people of that area, and we have to do a systematic survey to get the data. So these are the difference between designing a experiment on the basis of sample. And next is steps in sample design. So there are some points to which attention must be paid in while designing the sample. So like type of universe means what type of population we are taking to study. So all the items inside a field is called universe or population. And if the universe is finite or infinite, means if the pop- sample which we are taking is countable, then we can get the certain data. And if the population is infinite, then we have don't have the idea about how many number of items are present. So these all things will play a very crucial role in designing a sample. Next is sampling unit. It is actually a geographical area, may it be a village or a district or any locality. So a particular unit which we take into consideration while um, taking the sample, means from that area only we are taking the sample, then we will call that unit or sampling unit. Then is the source list. It is um, actually a frame or a list from where we are taking the sample. Like if the source list is not available, then the researcher have to prepare a new one on the basis of the availability. And next is the size of sample. So this also plays a very important role in designing a sample or designing a research, because the number of items that have to be selected from the universe to constitute a sample differs on the basis of our research. If the size is too large or too small, then we are not going to get the result that we are aiming for. So it has to be optimum sample which will fulfill all the requirement of efficiency, reliability, and flexibility. And the size of the population must be kept in view for the experiment, because it also limits the sample size. Next is parameters of interest. This means that while determining the sample design, we must consider the question of specific population parameters that we are interested in. If we are going to focus on tribal communities, then we have to go to villages to get our interested population. So based on that, we have to design the experiment. Next is budgetary constraint. The amount that we have with us, that taking that into consideration, we have to design the experiment. So this also plays a very important role here. Next is sampling procedure, where the researcher have to decide the type of sample he want to use, or how about the collecting technique he wants to use for collecting the data or collecting the sample. So this also is a very important thing, because any little mistake will give us sampling error. Next is criteria of selecting a sampling procedure. So here there are actually a case of bias. If we don't take these thing criteria properly, then we will have to deal with error or bias situation. So like inappropriate sampling frame. So if the sampling frame is inappropriate or already a biased one, then we will get the result in biased form only. So the data may not be reliable. Next is defective measuring device. So if we don't have the correct device, then we will always get error in our result. And next is non-respondents. So if we cannot get the data from the sample uh, or from the population that we want to study, then also we will get the response which will be biased or which will have error. Next is indeterminacy principle. So here actually sometimes we find that the individuals act differently when they are kept under observation than what they do when they are kept in normal situation. So this also makes the research very biased, or it has errors because you will not get the actual data. Next is natural bias in the reporting of the data. So um, there is actually uh, bias in case of some government taxation department or some income tax department. So in that case we don't give the actual data to the officers. Like when we fill our income tax document, we are not giving our actual income, or not showing some of the facilities that we get, due to which we get a biased result in our favor or sometimes in the favor of the government. So this is not the correct one. So there are some characteristics that say that a sample design is good. So mainly they are, if they truly represent the sample, then the sample design is good. And if the results have very less error, then also it is good. And if we design experiment in such a way that we use minimum amount of funds that have been given to us, then also the sample design is very good. And if they have very less bias, or the bias is controlled in a better way, then also the sample design is good. And if the results of the sample is applied and we get a reliable data, so then also we will consider that sample design very good. So thanks for listening, guys.